What on earth is going on with Microstrategy stock? It's up another 7% this morning. After last week, it went up something like 25 or 30%. It's crazy. It's about to surpass a $40 billion market cap after barely a month ago being barely over $20 billion. The stock price has gone from $115, $120 a share. Now we're closing in on $200 a share. We could hit it today, we could hit it tomorrow, we could hit it literally any day coming up here. So, what is going on with Microstrategy stock? That is the question. I've gotten more than any other question the last week or two. But it's worth answering, it's worth talking about a bit because I do think it's important. So in this video, it's just a very brief video to just go over what's happening because a lot of people are nervous. Man, should I smash buy some Microstrategy stock? Is it too late? Is it going to go up more? You know, how much should I buy? Blah, blah, blah. So I'm going to briefly go over, is Microstrategy stock overvalued, undervalued? What's going to happen in the future, right? This is just my opinion, okay? I think it's important to understand what Michael Saylor is doing and what Microstrategy is doing. I think it's really important, right? The last 4 years, there have been two kinds of Michael Saylor supporters, in my view, right? Of course, there have been lots of people that have not supported what Michael Saylor's been doing with Bitcoin for a variety of reasons. But there are two primary reasons why people in Bitcoin have been supporting Michael Saylor. The first one is because he's got a lot of money, right? He's got a lot of money. He's taken a lot of money and bought Bitcoin, right? And that's not unique, right? Other billionaires have bought Bitcoin before, right? Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple, has bought Bitcoin before. Other billionaires have bought Bitcoin, you know, so it's not abnormal. In fact, we're seeing Michael Dell, you know, of Dell, potentially buy Bitcoin. You know, it's a rumor. He seems to be more and more interested in Bitcoin in recent weeks, months. But that's the first reason typically why people support Michael Saylor. Oh, he's rich. Oh, he's going to make Bitcoin go to the moon, blah, 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 whatever. The second reason why people support Michael Saylor is because they understand the system he's creating, okay? So if I could elaborate on that a little bit, and this is where I would like to think of myself as, and where I would like to think the people that are really game theorying this out are sitting. And if you are part of this second group, MicroStrategy's recent run in price should not surprise you. I think, frankly, a lot of people in Bitcoin are in group one, and there's nothing wrong with group one, right? Like, it's great to support him, even if you don't understand what MicroStrategy is doing. Like, that's great, whatever. But I think to a lot of people in Bitcoin, MicroStrategy's run is very shocking, right? Like, so many days, like at least 4 or 5 days now, in the last week alone, MicroStrategy's been up 5, 8, 10, 12% in a day or whatever, and Bitcoin is down, you know, 1 or 2 or whatever percent, right? You know, my point is, there's been crazy upside, additional upside in MicroStrategy that we haven't seen with Bitcoin. So why is it happening? Well, let's talk about the strategy here. Let's talk about the game theory. The reason why what Michael Saylor is doing is so important in Bitcoin, and I would argue one of the most important happenings in all of Bitcoin right now, is he is essentially creating a Trojan horse for bringing Bitcoin to Wall Street. And the way he's doing that is that he's converting his company into this Bitcoin holding company, this Bitcoin bank, as he has himself described it. And by holding the Bitcoin and forcing the value of his stock price to go up, he is forcing his stock eventually, soon enough, to be included in the S&P 500, the NASDAQ 100, in the big indexes that passive money flows gets thrown into from the stock market, right? That is really, really important for Bitcoin, because for Bitcoin, that will give proxy exposure to Bitcoin. Is it self-custody? No, absolutely not. But it is entirely reasonable within a year that we could have tens of millions of Americans that have a 0.5%, half a percent price exposure to Bitcoin price, right? Because you only buy MicroStrategy for the Bitcoin holdings. You don't buy it for the company, right? And that is a really big deal because the fastest way you get tens of millions of Americans to actually care about Bitcoin is to realize, surprisingly, you know, they look at their portfolio one day, realize, oh, wow, we have 1/3% exposure to Bitcoin price. Okay, I guess I don't want it to go to zero now. I mean, I guess I could. You know, my point is the fastest way we turn people that hate Bitcoin and wishes it collapses to zero into people that don't want it to collapse to zero is to give them a little bit without them even realizing they have it, right? Yes, it's not self-custody. Yes, it's not, you know, where they're going to end up, but it's really important to at least get that hurdle going. Now, the other reason why it's really important for Bitcoin is that it's actually a forcing function on Bitcoin price. See, previous Bitcoin cycles have been very predictable, right? Looking back, in the moment, they're never as predictable, right? But looking back, we see some patterns, right? First, Bitcoin price runs up. Then other digital tokens run up, you know, the NFTs and all that stuff runs up after Bitcoin, right? And as those things run up higher than Bitcoin, because they're more liquid, because they're not commodities, they're securities, as they run up, then what happens is that capital flows from Bitcoin to the altcoins. It pumps the altcoins up. When the altcoins pump up, more capital flows from Bitcoin to the altcoins. When that happens, that means that, okay, there's less demand now for Bitcoin. Bitcoin price starts to flatten out or it just collapses, right? And when that happens, then demand for all the other securities and tokens or whatever also collapse, and then we have a new bear market, right? That's been the cycle so far. But what's really interesting, what MicroStrategy is doing, is that MicroStrategy, I think, is the degen play of this cycle or future cycles, right? I think more and more demand in Bitcoin world is going to shift away from the altcoins, the meme coins, and the other stuff into the assets that people can actually invest in, right? Wall Street is coming to Bitcoin, and Wall Street is probably not going to have the profits from their Bitcoin roll over into a meme coin, right? But they will probably do that with a stock. Maybe it's MicroStrategy stock, maybe it's a different stock, I don't know. But I do think it's going to be a very interesting question when in 6 months, a year, 18 months, when we're looking at the world and saying, you know, Bitcoin feels a little toppy, MicroStrategy feels a little toppy, right? The world, you know, it feels like the whole world is buying right now. But what's going to happen when Bitcoin price starts to fall and MicroStrategy has a really big premium? The bigger the premium MicroStrategy, the bigger the ability for Michael Saylor to issue convertible bonds, to sell shares, to do whatever with his company to buy more Bitcoin. And that probably won't change much if it's just him and his company. But what if we have 3? What if we have 4 companies doing this in a matter of 1 or 2 years, right? What happens when half a dozen other companies are also copying this strategy? The interesting thing to think is that this widening premium in MicroStrategy stock should not have you annoyed. You should not feel FOMO because of it. I know you probably do, but it's okay if you don't own MicroStrategy stock. It's okay if you don't have a high exposure to it, okay? It's all right, because the important thing to understand is that all the premium you're seeing, like the bigger the premium MicroStrategy, should not cause you to feel more and more frustration. You should feel more and more bullish. You should feel more and more optimistic, because the wider that premium gets, the greater ability it's going to be for Michael Saylor to, again, close that premium as much as he possibly can. How? By buying more Bitcoin, right? And other companies are going to do the same thing. The wider that premium gets, the bigger the incentive for other companies to follow him. The bigger the incentive, the more competition there is, the more all of these fiat premiums that are given to these stocks that don't make much intuitive sense to Bitcoiner brains is going to flow back into Bitcoin, right? All the premium from MicroStrategy is coming from Bitcoin right now, but what's going to happen is that all the fiat premiums of all these other companies are going to be converted back into Bitcoin, back into Bitcoin. And so why is MicroStrategy running? It's running because I think some people are starting to understand this. I think also very likely, you know, a lot of people that are shorting this stock, maybe you're getting wrecked right now. But, you know, additionally to that, I think a lot of people are starting to figure this out and realize, oh my goodness, this could be the next Tesla, this could be the next GameStop, because it's going to run into the S&P 500, right? So what should you do? Well, you should not do anything out of emotion, right? If you own MicroStrategy, good for you. I own a little bit. I own a very small percentage, a single-digit percentage of MicroStrategy. And the reason I do, personally, in full disclosure, is because that is my degen play, right? A lot of people have a 90% exposure to Bitcoin, a 10% exposure to various meme coins, say, oh, I'm going to sell the meme coins for Bitcoin when they run up, blah, blah, blah. Like, okay, fine, you do you, whatever. But for me, my meme coin is Saylor coin. My meme coin is MicroStrategy. And basically, I want something where mentally I'm okay parting with it, right? Like, if it runs up dramatically, I'm okay selling that, right? I never want to sell my Bitcoin. I never want to time a cycle with Bitcoin. But give me a couple percent of this security, and I might, you know, trade that or whatever. You know, not trade it, but, you know, I might try to sell it at the top or whatever, right? If I even do, I don't know. There's an argument to be made that maybe MicroStrategy doesn't collapse in the next bear market because it just keeps buying on all the way down. So anyway, I don't know, but my point is that if you're watching this, that's how you should view MicroStrategy stock. You should not view MicroStrategy stock like your Bitcoin. You should not view it like that. If you are going to buy MicroStrategy, you should probably view it more as a trade, more as an investment, not as money for the grandkids, right? That's what your Bitcoin is. Bitcoin, when you custody it properly, when you have a proper self-custody setup with 0 single points of failure, that Bitcoin is good for generations, right? There is a way below 0.1% risk in Bitcoin the network is going to die. There is a way below 0.1% risk that you're going to lose that Bitcoin. Again, I'm just talking about custody with 0 single points of failure. Other custody models that have points of failure, maybe you're looking at a 1, 3, 5, 8% chance you're going to lose it or whatever. I think maybe even higher for some people. But my point is, with MicroStrategy stock, you have an additional risk of the nation state attack. You have an additional risk of the single point of failure that is Michael Saylor and his team, right? You have additional single points of failure. I don't think those points of failure are high, right? I don't think it's extremely likely the U.S. government would seize MicroStrategy's coins. I don't think it's extremely likely that Michael Saylor would pass on, or that his team would fail to execute the strategy or do something stupid, right? I don't think those things are likely, but those are risks present in MicroStrategy that are not present with Bitcoin. Okay, this whole thing with premium, right? There's a lot of speculation there, right? Maybe it can go a lot higher, maybe it can go a lot lower. Nobody knows. It's an investment, it's a trade, and react accordingly, right? So please, I know it's running up, I know it's crazy, but please don't sell half your Bitcoin out of a panic to buy MicroStrategy stock because you're worried it's going to run up more and you're absolutely sure the premium is going to go up more. I think the premium will go up. I think it will go up. I think it will be a very exciting year or 2 years for the company. I think it's going to be a very, very exciting story. And I think, Saylor will be looked back as one of the visionaries and most influential people in Bitcoin for the whole decade. And again, the reason why is not even because, he's just rich, or, it's just number go up. But again, what is the fastest way we develop layer 2 technologies? What is the fastest way we accelerate and incentivize Bitcoin adoption? It's by having number go up, right? The faster we get transaction fees going up in the base chain, the faster we incentivize Lightning, Liquid, and other layer 2 development. The faster we have number go up in Bitcoin in general, the faster we have more corporate adoption from more countries, right? So the faster these things change, the faster we're gonna have this, right? And so even though Michael Saylor's main contribution to Bitcoin is a matter of doing lots of podcasts and getting Wall Street to buy Bitcoin and force number to go up, there's a lot of indirect protocol level changes that is going to incentivize and accelerate in production, right? So anyway, lots of ramblings here, lots of things to say, but that's my encouragement, is that I know you might be feeling a little bit of FOMO. I know it's a bit weird to see some other asset outperforming Bitcoin, right? But again, look at NVIDIA from a few months ago, right? NVIDIA became literally the world's most valuable company. What's NVIDIA doing right now? You haven't heard about it very much, right? Do I think MicroStrategy is a bubble like NVIDIA was? No, I don't think so. Maybe it is. It could be, right? But even if it is not, it's important to keep in mind all that sweet, sweet premium that you're seeing being accretive to MicroStrategy shareholders right now, all of that is going back to Bitcoin, or at least a significant part, right? And again, that's why I think the bigger the premium gets, the more compelling the case that we may not have the same kind of bear market in 2026 and 2027, right? Because again, when in previous Bitcoin cycles, when capital flows from Bitcoin to Dogecoin, that is a zero-sum game. $1 leaving Bitcoin and going to Dogecoin is a $1 net loss for Bitcoin, forces Bitcoin price down, creates a cycle, right? Like I was saying. But with MicroStrategy, $1 flowing from Bitcoin to MicroStrategy still is some exposure back to Bitcoin, right? If you put $1 in MicroStrategy, Michael Saylor is going to take out some portion of that and throw it back into new accretive Bitcoin acquisitions, right? Dogecoin is not going to issue bonds and buy more Bitcoin. But when you give more capital to MicroStrategy, that's what they're going to do, right? Or at least that's the plan, right? So my point is, the bigger the premium gets, should not be having you feel emotional right now. It should not be surprising, frankly. And right now I'm seeing a lot of Bitcoiners be very emotional with their decisions, asking if they should go all in, if they should, get all these options. Please don't mess with the options. If you don't know what you're doing with options, don't mess with the options. Please, please, please don't. If you have to ask, then you should not do it, right? So don't mess with the options. If you want to buy a bunch of MicroStrategy, go for it. That's great. Maybe you have capital stuck in some retirement account that you can't access Bitcoin, right? Again, you can probably get self-custody Bitcoin, right? It's something I help people do all the time. I did a couple yesterday. I'm doing a couple more this afternoon. Help people set up their IRAs with Bitcoin, self-custody, holding their own keys, But anyway, a lot of rambling, but I hope it's just a reminder for people to calm down. Everything's okay. Congrats, Michael. He's made $2 billion or something in the last month. He's making like $10 million every hour, every workday right now. So good for him. But yeah, more and more CEOs are going to copy this, and it's going to be very, very bullish. So don't feel FOMO with the premium. Don't be frustrated with the premium. I get it. It's amazing. But keep in mind, all of that premium you're seeing in this one stock right now, every other company is going to want to copy. And what is all of that premium of all of the other stocks going to be converted back into? The best money known to man. So get off zero, get some best money known to man, right? If you want some MicroStrategy, maybe just do 1%, right? MicroStrategy's got 1% of all the Bitcoins in the world. Maybe they'll get to 2%, maybe 3%, way down the line. But you know that we'll see about that. But yeah, keep in mind, if you have a 5% exposure to MicroStrategy, you have 5 times more exposure than, you know, an equal ratio, right? So again, just keep that in mind. If you're gonna smash buy because you want to just scratch the itch, you know, probably a better idea to keep it to single-digit percentages than double-digit percentages, right? So that's just my perspective. This is not financial advice. MicroStrategy could collapse 30-40% and it would still have a premium against Bitcoin, and it could run up another 200-300%. I've got no idea, but it is the most interesting stock in the world right now, in my opinion, for this exact reason, that more than any other company, MicroStrategy is accelerating Bitcoin number go up, and it is accelerating perhaps what could be the most important corporate Bitcoin strategy to date for Bitcoin. So anyway, that's all I got.